Hi curious souls, I'm Mukta and you're watching The Sibyl Revealing Secrets. Today we'll be discussing the Death card, which is believed to be the most scary card of the deck by a lot of people, especially the ones who are new to tarot. But as usual, I hope that you've already meditated with the card, jotted down your rough points, and then you're watching this video. If you haven't, do that and be back. And if you have, then most welcome. Let's continue. Said in the introduction video that death is considered to be the scariest of all cards in the deck, especially by people who don't know much about tarot cards or haven't had a lot of experience with them. So because the name in itself is scary, and in a lot of decks the picturization or the imagery is also scary as hell. You have skulls, you have people dying. So yeah, it looks very scary. But let me make one thing really clear to you if the death card scares you too. It is that death card does not necessarily mean that someone's about to die. In fact, I as a tarot reader believe very firmly that one should not predict deaths. Now, I don't know about others, but I at least never predict deaths. So I would not entertain a question that involves about will a person live through a particular surgery, because it is indirectly related to death, right? Or else questions as to how long will I be living, or will I be able to see my granddaughter's marriage or not, or things like that, which are questions that are even indirectly related to death. I do not entertain them. Apart from that particular bracket, I am open to all types of questions, but death, no go. So obviously for me, death card would never mean a person's death, but even for other tarot readers who are comfortable with predicting deaths as well, the death card would not necessarily mean that someone's dying. It can be the case in some cases, but it is overhyped and especially dramatized by a lot of cinemas. Like, I love a movie that's called Kahani. It's from Bollywood. It's an amazing movie overall. But this particular scene wherein a tarot card reader puts out the death card and later on she herself dies, that's again dramatizing the card and filling that fear in people's minds. So, getting to what the card means, the card is actually a card of transformation. Major changes, many a times even sudden changes. This card can also denote rebirth, renewal, rejuvenation. So, the changes that we are talking about over here can be sudden, as I just mentioned, but they are not necessarily positive or necessarily negative changes. It depends very much on the question, on the situation, on the placement of the card and the cards that surround this particular card. So we cannot really comment on the type of change that's coming just by looking at this particular card, but we can decipher those things looking at the other cards and understanding what the current situation is all about. This card also talks about a natural ending, going to the next stage or the next phase of life, or overall the cycle of whatever is going on with respect to the situation and the question. It is also a card of new opportunities, a card of new ideas. So please don't be afraid of this card. It is an amazing card, and I for one can be really happy when this card pops up, especially if the things are not going on the right track with regards to the question that is asked. So I personally take the meaning of this card as a major change. Something that's really huge is about to change, and the tables are going to turn for better or for worse. So if the question is related to work, then very high chances that the person is going to change not just the job, but might as well change the field of working, and hence the overall work atmosphere or the overall style of working, the work culture, everything is going to change drastically. So the person needs to be ready for this particular change that the person might be either choosing to go with or might have to face it willingly or unwillingly. Talking about love relationships, a death card can signify a divorce, but that's not always necessary. So a separation can be in cards depending on the current situation between the couple and depending on how things are going or how the question is framed. But a death card can also mean that the way they have been handling their relationship is going to change a lot. So maybe a couple who has been fighting a lot from a long period of time might come to terms with things, might try to understand each other and have a way peaceful life than before. A couple that has been into a long distance relationship since a long period of time can start to live together or can break up depending on the other cards that follow the death card. It can also be a vice versa situation. The couple might have to face some kind of long distance if they are already living together. That again depends on the other cards that are into picture, which we'll be discussing more about when we come to the interpretations and discussing different spreads part. For a single person, the death card can bring good news, which would be, and especially if they are looking for a partner or things like that, then the good news is that they will get a partner soon and might be a couple soon. It will be true especially if there's a lover's card or the two of cups card right after the death card. If the question is related to spirituality, then if the client is already into spirituality, then they might stop going ahead with it or change the way of progressing into the field of spirituality in a very drastic manner. Or else if they are not into spirituality as of now, then they might enter into it and very quickly get really into deep stuff. So those things are possible. Now let's look at the symbolisms of the death card from the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. Over here, as usual, it's a very scary card. I'm saying as usual because that's how a death card is in a lot of decks. So we are able to see a skeleton over here who's like, packed in armor, saying that he has really seen a lot of wars and has been either victorious in them, which is why he's able to make it so far, or he has seen a lot of brutality and has turned stone cold, because of which he is represented by a skeleton. He's on a horse, but he's not really having a tight control over the horse, or he's actually holding the reins really loosely, which would mean that he shares a good relationship with the horse. There's a relationship of trust between them, and hence he does not really have to put a lot of control in order to make the horse go the way he wants it to. He also has a banner or a flag which has an emblem of rose in it, which is a symbol of life force. So there exactly we are able to say that the death card is not literally about dying. It is about embracing a major change. Also, we are able to see different people's reaction towards the death. The death is kind of crossing its path, and there's this king who has already died, and on its way it is able to see 4 different reactions to death. Over here we have a bishop who is welcoming death with open arms, which kind of shows his high level of spirituality and his understanding about how the life cycle works. Over here there's this little girl who's not even able to look at death. The little girl is so very scared by the looks of it that she is just turning her head away and trying to shut her eyes closed so that she does not have to face the really terrible sight. And I think that's how majority of us react to death. Now, there's also this little kid who does not really know a lot of realities of life and is trying to figure things out. And hence, the kid is not really scared of death because the kid does not really know what it means. The kid is yet to be taught the things that should scare him and the things that he should welcome and things like that. So right now, he's trying to figure out things on his own. So he's kind of staring at the death, trying to understand what is going on. And over here we are able to see that the death has already passed the king and hence the king has already died. And obviously a dead person cannot really show a reaction. But the depiction that the king has died in itself is a huge representation that there is a major change. So the death of the king is not only affecting his own self or his life and people who are close to him, it affects the whole kingdom. It affects the other kingdoms who deal with this particular kingdom. And hence it is a huge change that we are talking about. This particular scenery can also talk about that the judgment is on its way. If we look at symbolisms in the background, we are able to see that there are two towers between which we are able to see that there is a sun. Now, some people say that this is the time of a sunset, and some people say that this is the time of sunrise. So, both in one way or the other say that one day has ended and another has begun, which is itself a representative of a change, of turning tables. There's also a flowing river in the background. So there's a background that flows down and comes over here. So that's kind of flowing water, constant movements, constant changes. And the river also represents the life force. If we look closely, we are able to see a boat as well over here. And there's this harbor over here. So the boat is actually near the harbor. So the passengers of the boat are finally going to land. So that again is a major change, and it can also mean that the tough times are over or the task is about to get over and you need to set on a new journey. So that's it from the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. Now let's look at the symbolisms of the death card from the Shadowscapes deck. One thing that I truly love about this particular card is that the card looks so very beautiful and yet passes across the required message in a perfect manner. This is the perfect deck for people who are not really comfortable with images like these. Kind of scary images, who do not like to have skeletons in their cards, or who deal with more sensitive clients who might be scared when they look at skeletons in their cards. So this card means death or means something major is known only to the reader, and hence the reader is able to communicate things the way he or she wishes. Otherwise, I personally have also seen that when such a card appears, many clients kind of get scared and then you have to explain the whole meaning of the card to them and then continue with the reading, which can be taxing many a times. So this is something that I really appreciate. It is a very sweet card and yet it is giving a really strong message. So this is a card that depicts a phoenix who is believed to rise out of its own ashes, which obviously is a huge symbol of a major change. The phoenix sings in pain while being burned in the flames, but these flames provide the required heat to its eggs so that they can gain that life. Pretty heavy, right? Now we are able to see that egg at the bottom of the tree that is gaining that heat and gaining its color and developing in its full form. Which is why from the symbolism of this particular card, we can say that the client might have to sacrifice a lot of things. Sacrifice even possibly something that the client relates with his or her own identity, or sacrificing self in order to get something that's really of a greater value, but still that sacrifice in itself is a huge thing to do and a very difficult decision to take. It kind of advises us to let go of the old things or the old feelings so that we can make way for the new ones. If you look in the background, we are able to see 3 different types of flowers. One of them are the purple irises, which represent the goddess Iris. She is a Greek goddess of rainbow. So she is someone who travels to earth and brings messages from the gods. So that basically would talk to us about the life force which the river had talked about in the RWS deck. The other plant is Sumac, which symbolizes surviving change, and the third plant is a poisonous one, and I don't think I need to explain why it has made its way to the death card. So that's it from the Shadowscapes deck. Now let's discuss what would be the meaning of a reversed death card. Now the possible interpretations of the reversed death card can either be positive or negative, very much similar to the case with the upright death card. Over here, because of the reverse death card, we can say that the situation might come to a standstill. Things are just stuck where they are and there's no movement whatsoever. So for some time you need to have the patience. Either have the patience and bear with what is going on, or rejoice what's going on and just be carefree. You need not do anything. You need not really try to make things work. Right now, the situation that is, it's going to be as it is for a long period of time. So if it's positive, enjoy it. If it's negative, bear with it. A reverse death card can also mean that someone is trying to force something. The person is trying to forcefully end a particular situation, which will obviously not turn out that very well. Or else someone is trying to stretch things ahead so that the end can be avoided. So kind of messing around with the situation, and that might be really dangerous. So be careful about that. Be alert that none of such things are happening. If you are doing it, try to find other ways to deal with the situation rather than trying to escape or trying to just drag things out. This card can also represent an attitude of avoiding an upcoming change, being in denial, or trying to make things stick for a long period of time, not wanting to change with the changing society or with the changing circumstances, which will again lead to a very negative outcome. So it is better to take some time out, do some thinking, and think whether it's really worth putting in so many efforts, which might go into vain in future because things are changing. So it's best to roll with the flow. And the last interpretation of the reverse death card that I have to offer is that there is a possibility of something old getting revived. An old relationship can get sparks again, or you might meet someone from your past, or an old project that was kind of refused or denied or that was buried down might be dug up again, and you might be able to work on that particular thing again, be it something good or be it something bad. So being ready for such things is advisable. So I hope that these different interpretations of the death card were of help to you, and now you're not scared of the death card if you were earlier. If they did help you, then please do hit the like button, because that would let me know that I'm doing a good job. Also, write down your interpretation of the death card in the comments below so that we all can benefit out of it. Relate the meaning of this card with the life experiences that you've had, or your surroundings, or your environment, and write that as well in the comments down below. Share this video with anybody who will be interested in knowing more about the death card, or who might be afraid of the death card, so that they can be at peace. And if you are interested in knowing about different interpretations of different cards, then do subscribe to this channel, because I come up with different interpretations of one card every weekend. So I'll see you next weekend. Till then, bye-bye, take care, and stay curious.